Summary of A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. A young boy named Dooney realizes that he is a mage when he copies his aunt's spoken charm to control a group of goats on the made-up island of Gaunt in the Earthsea archipelago. Dooney's aunt sees how good he is at casting magic and takes him under her wing to practice. When invaders with pale skin from the Kargad Empire attack the island of Gaunt, Dooney uses his fog-weaving skills to make a thick fog that the invaders can't see through. This protects his village from the marauding Karg forces. This is the most amazing magic trick Dooney has ever done, and it's worn him out afterward. The event, however, gets the attention of a nearby mage named Ogion, who visits Dooney's town to ask for permission to train Dooney as a servant. Dooney is excited to go with Ogion, who is smart. Dooney crosses the island of Gaunt to get to the town of Realby with his new master. He is given the real name Ged and the public name Sparrowhawk. The young Ged, on the other hand, quickly grows angry at Ogion for not wanting to use magic to do normal things. He wants to learn as quickly as possible, and Ged thinks that Ogion's slow teaching is getting in the way of that. When a girl from the village begs Ged to cast a spell he doesn't know, Ged looks in one of Ogion's old rune books and almost lets out a dark, scary force by reading out loud an old spell. Ogion steps in just in time, but the man can feel both the power and the anger in his student. Ogion tells Ged not to get too excited about power and to instead go to the famous school for wizards on the Isle of Roke, which is where Ogion himself went to school. When Ged gets to the school on Roke, he is sucked into a world of puzzles, tests, and tricks. Among them is Archmage Nemril, who is very old and the school's head mage. Ged gets to know his new classmates, such as the cocky braggart Jasper and the quiet, nice Vetch. Jasper and Vetch are excited to show off how good they are at tricks. Ged starts to worry that coming to Roke was the wrong choice, but as soon as classes start, he focuses on his work and starts to see that he is already a skilled mage in training. The 9 masters of Roke teach Ged and his classmates illusion, herbalism, summoning, and runes. They also warn them to understand the delicate balance that keeps the world going, and how magic can upset and corrupt that balance when it is used for bad reasons. Ged gets an otak as a pet, which is like a small fox, and becomes closer friends with Vetch. At the same time, his rivalry with Jasper gets worse. Things finally get bad when Ged, sick of Jasper's taunts, challenges the other boy to a wrestling match. They leave school and go to a grassy hill, where Ged is dared by Jasper to call a ghost from the afterlife. When Ged tries to do that, he calls forth a terrible black shadow that strikes him and leaves him with terrible wounds. When Nemril shows up, he uses a flash of light to scare the shadow away. The other masters help Ged get back to the master herbalist's quarters to start a long, hard healing process. Nemril, who is tired from fighting the shadow, passes away. Gensher is named as the new archmage. Ged takes months to get better. When he goes back to school, he has a lot of white scars on his body, and his classmates don't even know him. Ged should keep studying, says Archmage Gensher. Ged needs to learn everything he can to fight the evil he brought into the world, which is sure to be waiting for him somewhere. Ged works hard at school and slowly goes back to making spells and magic. Vetch tells Ged his real name is Astariel. He has won his wizard's staff and is going back to his home in the East Reach. Ged looks through old books of legends to learn more about the shadow but can't find anything useful. When Ged's time to leave Roke's school is up, he takes one last test from the master doorkeeper and passes. He then goes to work as a wizard on the small island of Low Toring, which is in danger from a group of dragons that live on the nearby island of Pender. Ged takes care of the everyday needs of the people in Low Toring. Even though it's not the exciting trip he was hoping for, Ged starts to feel the shadow again after failing to save his new friend Petchvery's young son from a deadly fever. He knows he has to save the people of Low Toring from the dragons before he can leave and get away from the dark, so he goes to Pender and faces the scary dragon Yavad. Ged is able to keep Yavad bound to Pender forever by saying his real name out loud. This keeps Low Toring safe. This is Ged's return to the island with good news. He knows it's time to move on. Ged tries to get back to Roke, but an evil spell stops him from getting to the island. Ged spends the night on a nearby island and meets a stranger who seems to know him. The stranger tells Ged that he should go north to the land of Osskil and the court of Terrenon. Ged will learn how to fight his ghost there. Ged goes back to the dock to look for a way to get to Osskil. He agrees to work as an oarsman on a longboat. On the long, hard trip north, he meets an Osskilian named Skyer who scares him. Still, Ged agrees to Skyra's offer to take him to the court of Terrenon when the ship gets to Osskil. But on the way, Skyer starts to act strangely. Ged makes Skiro turn around and face him, but Skiro's hood starts to fight him anyway. Ged sees that Skyer has turned into a shadow doll, or Jebeth. In order to get away from the shadow, Ged hides behind a bright castle wall, but he passes out as the gates between him and the Jebeth close. Ged wakes up in the fancy court of Terrenon. A woman named Sarit says she is the lady of the court. Her husband is a guy many years older than her. He makes friends with Ged because he wants to have someone to talk to, but he doesn't remember her as the country girl he used to know on Gaunt. Soon, Sarit tries to get him to go to the strong Stone of Terrenon, which is the foundation stone of the castle. The stone is locked up in 3 different ways in a dark, faraway room. Ged feels a terrible power coming from the stone as soon as he sees it and won't touch it or talk to it. Sarit, on the other hand, tries to get Ged to want the power of the stone. She even offers to rule with him once he really masters the stone. When Ged says no a second time in front of Benderesk, he turns Sarit into a horrible monster and sends his servants of the stone after her and Ged as they run away from the castle. Ged finds the frozen body of his Otak friend in the backyard. Sarit turns into a bird and tries to get away. Ged does the same thing and turns into a hawk. When he flies out to sea, Osskilian magic can't hurt him. He soon gets back to Gaunt while still being a hawk. He takes off straight for Ogion, his old master, and lands on his arm. Ogion helps Ged find his way back to being human. Ged stays with Ogion for a few days while he gets better. After Ged quits as Ogion's apprentice, he's been having a lot of problems. Ogion tells Ged about all the good things he's done. Ged's old staff is broken, and Ogion tells him that running away from the shadow won't help, he needs to become the hunted instead. Ged takes over a small boat once his new staff is finished. He hopes that if he meets the ghost at sea, he will be stronger than he was on land. The shadow flies across the waves when Ged calls for it. But when Ged sails at it, the shadow turns and runs away. There is a wild chase, and the shadow tricks Ged into getting stuck on a remote beach. Ged finds an old man and a woman living there. They don't speak Ged's language, and he starts to think they are Kargish royalty living in exile. While his boat is being fixed, Ged goes out to sea again. Soon, the shadow shows up again, but this time it's in the back of his boat. The shadow tries to escape Ged's grasp, but he can't. The shadow runs away, but Ged feels like something has changed, he is now the hunted. Ged keeps following the shade across the water, stopping on small islands to rest and restock his supplies. Someone who looked like Ged came to that island a few days ago, so he is turned away on that island. As Ged walks alone through the streets of Ifish Island, he runs into his old friend Vetch. Vetch and Ged happily hug each other, and Vetch offers Ged to stay at his house and rest. Just a few years younger than Ged is Vetch's sister Yarrow. The two get along great. Ged tells Vetch what he's been up against since he left Roke and says he's going to follow the shadow to the ends of the earth to face it. Vetch offers to go with them because he says someone needs to see Ged's big, final fight with the beast. While Vetch and Ged talk about how Ged can beat the shadow, Ged says he knows he needs to find out what the thing is called. When Vetch and Ged left, they went south on a long trip that took them past the last known island in the group of islands. The ship suddenly runs aground out at sea, a long way south of the last landmass that can be seen. The only things Ged can see are the beach and the reef. Vetch can only see water everywhere. Ged sees the shadow in the distance. It changes into his father's shape, then jaspers, then petchberries, and finally Ged's shape before going back to being a shadow. Ged calls the ghost by its real name, Ged. There is a flash of light and dark as Ged grabs hold of his shadow self. Vetch pulls Ged from the waves as the land melts away. Ged is tired but happy. He tells Vetch that he finally feels whole. When Vetch and Ged get back to the East Reach, Yarrow is happy to see them. In a brief epilogue, the narrator explains that in all of the great songs and deeds that will be sung about Ged's numerous adventures in the years to come, long after he ascends to Archmage of the entire archipelago, not a single one will remember his encounter with the shadow.
About the author. Ursula Le Guin was born in Berkeley, California, to parents who were anthropologists. She studied at Radcliffe College and Columbia University. After that, she worked as a secretary and a French teacher before becoming a full-time science fiction writer. During her lifetime, she was called America's greatest living science fiction writer, but she didn't like being labeled as a sci-fi writer. She would rather be called a novelist. Still, writers like David Mitchell, Cloud Atlas, Neil Gaiman, American Gods, The Sandman, Kelly Link, Magic for Beginners, and Jeff Vandermeer, Annihilation, were influenced by her work. She changed the genre by writing in literary and lyrical language and using Taoist ideas and themes of feminism, anarchism, and environmentalism in many of her works. Le Guin died on January 22, 2018.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.